Okay. Welcome to the Team Dervert podcast. It's been a while since we've done one of these, so we're going to be a little rusty, but we have an extra special edition because we have three recent Moab finishers. So we wanted to have John, Kathy, and Andrew on to, talk about their experiences and share some stories. And I know we have some listener questions. So I want to first introduce everyone. Obviously, we're not going to introduce me and Jen, since hopefully people have listened to us before or watched. But we want to introduce John Ferris of Fort Worth. He's got 400-mile buckles, including Western States this year. He finished Moab in 78:39, which was good for 7th overall, right? Or is it 6th now? Okay.
7th.
7th overall. And Kathy Hanley of Houston. Is Houston, not Kingwood? No.
Houston.
Okay, Houston. And Kathy has 300-mile buckles, and she finished Moab in 95:58, which was good for 9th female. And Andrew Marvin of Fort Worth, 100-mile buckle. Are we going to count that second virtual one?
I say one and a half.
Yeah, 1.5.
It's not a real one.
100-mile buckles, and then finished Moab in 1:11:53. So all amazing performances. Everyone had a great time following along. So we just wanted to welcome you guys on, share some stories. Hope everyone is recovering well. Everyone looks pretty good. It's tough to tell with Andrew since he's in a car and he's actually been traveling furiously since Moab.
I've not really been home in 3 weeks. So
we'll just go kind of in line. I want to go in, tell us about yourselves, your background, how you got into running, trails, and I guess we'll start with John.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So, a little about me as far as my running background. I didn't start till after I graduated college. I was never a track or cross country guy. I was a rock climber in college and had a finger injury that put me out for a couple months. It was just like a pulley strain. And I was reading books on mountaineering and thought that sounded pretty badass and was like, man, I should start working on my cardio because I didn't have cardio worth shit. So started, just bought a pair of running shoes, started running. And once I read a couple books on ultra marathons, I thought it sounded horrendous. And, read like Ultra Marathon Man by Dean Karnazes and Born to Run, and just thought 100 miles, that sounds like a cool thing to shoot for, and sounds awful, but in a cool way. So here I am, probably 6 years running ultras. I tend to pursue tough races or scenic races and travel, 31 and single. So, ladies. And and yeah, that's it. I love running, and somehow I found myself signed up for the Moab 240. Thanks, Andrew.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was worth it.
All right. That was actually the second question on why Moab and why the 200. So we'll segue into that. But go ahead, Kathy.
Sure. I wasn't ever athletic. As a kid, I was always picked last for PE, so I don't think I ever thought this would be my life right now, but I did get into running in college. I saw, people running in all shapes, sizes, ages, and I thought maybe I could do this and maybe it would be more fun than the elliptical at the gym. And so I would run until I was out of breath, and that was like 30 seconds. And then somehow my uncle had said I could do a half marathon, and I did that. I moved to Houston in 2016, and what I like to call my running dad said, well, if you could do a marathon, you could do a 50K. And then after that, it just went nuts. So that's how I got here.
All right, Andrew.
Didn't really get into running until about 5 years ago. I was more into cycling and everything else until I got bored of that. I know I've done my background a lot, so I'll just simplify this. 3 years of road running, and I always ran solo, but it wasn't until December 2020 that I kind of got into trail running. Kind of did that solo at first until I guess running the roads. Well, I guess only a month, and then after that, I've just been everywhere. So I've only been trail running not even 2 years yet, but it's out of every sport I've done or activity like biking, road cycling, to a far lesser extent, swimming. It's just it's been the most welcoming and rewarding. And just like John, I would like to go travel and do a bunch of races. I went to Oregon and DNF'd 100-miler there, but it was still one of my favorite races. So getting out of Texas and seeing the world is pretty much my goal. And combining my love of travel and running in one event, in one sport, that's pretty rewarding. So yeah, that's basically it.
All right.
Yeah, you didn't expect that short of a response, did you?
No,
Sorry.
I wasn't ready to ask the question because I felt like you'd be strolling on for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked my butt off for the Moab podcast on our other one, so I'm keeping it short, simple.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, John, you touched on why you chose Moab. Was there any other reasons besides the fact that Andrew bullied you into it?
Yeah, I think I had always planned on doing at least one of the 200s at some point. I watched the video of Mike McKnight doing the Triple Crown a couple of years ago and was pretty inspired by that. And strangely enough, he coached me for the Moab 240, so super fortuitous. But anyways, yeah, I think Andrew was a catalyst for me signing up, honestly, because I felt bad. He signed up for a stage race across the Scottish Highlands that I bullied him into. And then we postponed it a year because I got into Western States, or I postponed it a year because I got into Western States, and Andrew's like, well, I'm running this race in Scotland with you, so you're just going to have to do Moab, I think is how it went. And so I think I would have done it eventually, but I think I did it a lot sooner than I intended to because Andrew, I felt obligated to return the favor.
All right.
That's about it.
Yeah. What about you, Kathleen?
So I guess a few years ago I did Bryce Canyon, a 50-miler, and I was signed up for the 50K, and I think the night before the race I changed to the 50-miler. I had a friend going and I didn't think he was going to go, and I didn't want to do the 50-miler alone. So I waited until he actually got there for me to decide to do the 50-miler. But I just love Utah, and I just loved seeing the landscape. And so when I learned about Moab, I have a couple friends who did Moab and one who did Triple Crown, and I just loved the landscape. And so it made me want to do it. And then when I saw my friends doing 200 milers, it made me think, like, can I do something like this? And the guy I called my running dad, Grady, he said he used to talk me into TIR. He's like, you should do TIR solo, like 200 miles. And I'm like, maybe I could be the first woman who does that. But then I think Lydia took that. And so then as I started to hear about these 200s that weren't on road and that were gorgeous, I thought, maybe that's something I could do. And then just seeing Courtney do it, and I'm just like fangirling her. I just fell in love with the race and just started watching all the videos I could. But I think the landscape just really drew me in. And then the challenge of what will 200 miles feel like? I was just so curious. And if people did it, like, could I do it? And my friends are crazy. They would tell me, like, you can do that, like, you should do it. So hopefully we can talk other people into doing it if they really want to, because people talked me into it. But yeah, that's the gist of what happened.
Very cool. Andrew, how did you choose Moab 240?
Real great question, Jen. Real good question. So I like running. Not as fast as I used to be. I really love running. But the best part that I found of trail running for me is the walking and the survival and the completely losing my mind and the mental fortitude going out the window, and then just, the real mental anguish and pain, long days, long nights. So I decided, well, one of the catalysts was last year in Oregon Cascades, that Oregon 100 miler that should not have DNF'd. I'm still salty about that one. Jill Allison was doing it, and we spent a whole lot of time together leading up to that race in Oregon. And she was talking about doing Moab, and that piqued my interest. And I always liked the idea of just a single loop, point to point, just not repetitive, somewhere out of the state, adventure, some sort of adventure where you can run, but also struggle, survive. You have time to struggle, survive, problem solve, without the pressure of some of the stricter 100-mile cutoffs. I mean, so I don't know. To be honest, there was no real good reason. It was another just leap of faith type of thing. And then, just like John said, I was easily alerted to Cape Wrath, which honestly is even more wild and ridiculous. So it's probably a blessing in disguise that he decided to Judas me and get into Western States. And I convinced him to defer Cape Wrath and then sign up for Moab. So getting him to do Moab convinced myself even further to sign up for Moab. I still wasn't 100% certain, but when I convinced him, I was like, hell yeah, all right, let's do it. So yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of just being thrown out somewhere completely new and just figuring it out. So I think that's what I'm meant to do. So I don't know. I don't like running fast.
Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention that all three you're all in your 30s, which I think is typically rare for 100 milers. Usually tends to be I can say older because Jen and I are older.
I'm old.
Yeah. So it's
old.
I didn't realize that. Well, I should have realized that, but when I started stalking your ultra signups and I started seeing threes in front of your ages, so I think that was pretty interesting because I wouldn't think the 200s would skew that young. You guys are just ahead of the game. So I wanted to ask about a training aspect because you already even just training for hundreds or transitioning from say 50K to 100. People ask us, how's the training different? So I want to talk about since you guys had several months to think about it. I know we know Kathy and Andrew's coaches and everyone's familiar with Mike McKnight, and so I wanted at least for each of you to talk about how maybe your training wasn't that different, or what was there something special that you guys did that is not typical for 100 milers? What does Mike teach someone that has multiple races of that distance under his belt? Some kind of insights that he gave you, or anything that was different. What would people expect when they transition from 100 milers to 200? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so for me, I basically consider the start of my training to be pre-Western States. It's been about 7 months collectively, and I knew Western States being a 100 miler would be a good kind of just tester distance on testing out a lot of my gear, minus the poles because they don't let you run with those there. And hydration and management of everything. 100 milers are always a good test of a lot of that. And I basically came out of that race healthy, rested for 2 weeks, and then got right back to training. I had a different coach for Western that I had been with for about 2 years, and he decided to step away from coaching. And strangely enough, it was like, this was right after Western, and Mike had an Instagram post saying he had a coaching slot open up. It was like that next day. I was like, perfect. That is the dude to coach me for Moab 240 because he's done all the 200s. So he really quickly, started me on his plan. And I think the real difference maker that really I noticed was strength training. And it was 3 days a week, basically lots of supplemental strength and core, and probably an hour worth of exercises. And he would do that. So like on a Friday, I'd have, maybe 12 miles in the morning. And then I'd have an hour of strength and core just to tire the legs. It'd be a ton of squats and lunges and everything to tire out my legs and glutes the day before my long run. And then I'd go into my long run on tired legs. But, I think it was a true difference maker. I mean, I felt so strong throughout the whole training cycle because of it. And it's not something I've historically really done. But yeah, I vouch for it. It's not always fun to do the 2-a-days where you're running in the morning and then, lifting in the evening or doing strength, but it helps.
Cool. That is that's good to hear, because that's something that Jen and I both preach in our training. And I mean, I only have one 200-mile race under my belt, but I felt that was important for me as far as making sure your body holds up for multiple days, and fatiguing your legs before a long run, so you can get that accumulated fatigue with not just just more miles. So that's good that I know I've tried to listen to a lot of Mike's podcasts and his visits and hear what he has to say, but I think I probably missed that part on the strength training. So I'm glad he's embracing that as well. Cappy?
Yeah, I feel like there's so much I want to say, and I don't want to go on for too long, but I started working with Tommy with Team Ninja in December, right before the Houston Marathon. And one of the things that was most different about training was, I think, recovery. So like after I did Houston Marathon, I'm used to just pushing it, and the recovery was a little bit more gradual. And then another big thing was strength training. So I started adding the strength training workouts, I think about a couple times a week. And then kind of like John said, sometimes those would be before a long run, or sometimes I'd have like some kind of like speed workout or tempo type workout before a long run. So I was pretty beat up and tired, and then doing this long run, and I'm like, oh, like everyone I'm running with is so much faster. What's wrong with me? And then I'd remember, oh wait, Tommy gave me this crazy stupid workout the day before, and that's why I'm struggling. So it was great mental and physically. And I actually felt a lot stronger as the several months progressed, just with the strength. Like I could see my body changing, and I could just feel stronger. I could feel the quads and hamstrings getting stronger from the workouts. Another thing he added was a lot of arm stuff, because I think I went to Wonderland Trail, and I had done that, which I think was a great test of everything. It was 3 days, about 95 miles total, 30 miles a day. But I got to figure out some weaknesses there. Like my arms were a little bit weaker than I'd like. So he gave me this awesome trekking pole workout that I would do just sometimes for fun because I loved it, but it was very targeted on using trekking poles. And I think that made a big difference as well. I think the Wonderland trip was something that he helped me work in my schedule, and I was so worried. I'm like, oh, Tommy's gonna think this is a stupid idea. It's 1 month before Moab. He's not gonna want me to do this. And he's like, no, this is great training. This is perfect. And so we worked it in, and I think having those 3 runs of like 30 miles ish a day for 3 days was great training. It increased my confidence because I felt so good during it. And so I realized, like, okay, Moab's going to be like double this, but I think I can do it. And one of the things Tommy and I had to work through was mental stuff, because since COVID and like loss of family, I hadn't run trails for a couple years. I hadn't done races, and so he had to help me get back in the swing of things. And I did a Jackalope Jam in February, and I was crying at mile 30, which is kind of my thing now. I like to cry at mile 30, but I think today he told me, he was like, I was a little worried about your mental capacity at that point. but I got to work through some of that with the races I did. So sometimes race lead up doesn't have to just be physical. It can be working on the mental stuff. And so I'm really glad we did that together and had some race recaps from that. I think it made a big difference. And then I think Tommy's really good at not overtraining me. And in the past with marathon training, I personally think I've worked way harder in terms of mileage, maybe not strength, but mileage. And so I can easily go out and do 10 miles a day, and that's not really great for me. So Tommy added in the strength, and he worked with like the limitations I have with my body, knowing like running just tons of miles is not good for my body. I'm going to get injured. And so I'm shocked that I've been injury free for the most part. Everything's been controllable. So through the adding the strength, maybe not doing the mileage too heavy, I think it was perfect. I also really liked some of the weighted vest workouts, and we did a lot of hiking, which was really different. Stair climbing, trails with the weighted vest. So all that training was way different than my previous 100-mile training. And I think it all really helps. So all the strength stuff, not just miles, but just strength.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the trekking post strength because that was something I learned early on in Cocodona because a lot of that climbing was early, or well, there's still climbing later, but there's a big climb early, and it's easy trap to fall in. So once those poles come out, you get very comfortable with them, and I realized I was using them way too much when we were on flatter terrain. And then by day 2, my shoulders were just trashed. My back was sore. And so I had to be cognizant of that. And I put them back in my pack, and I only use them when I really needed them for the climbs. So that trekking post strength workout is something we've been trying to add to everyone that's doing the longer stuff because that's something most of the runners, their legs are strong. We're going to continue to do the leg work, but that's easily overlooked. So I'm glad you saw some payoff there. I think Andrew is still there. He's just very much in the dark. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, it's the sun has gone down, Greg. I can confirm it is going down, but the lights are still shining bright here at Sonic and the cash store. So I have some good supplemental lighting. As for me, training started immediately after, I guess, I recovered from the 100-miler at Dinosaur Valley last November. Once I fully recovered, so I kind of picked my races in preparation for Moab, and if you followed me at all, the first half of the year has been kind of a giant hit or miss, mainly a miss. I wanted to focus in having Jen as my coach on, and she okayed some of this stuff. More of the back-to-back stuff, like long days. I just wanted to stand on my feet like as much as possible. If you asked me back in the day, like 2-3 years ago, especially when I was more speed focused, like, just walking around or just like standing around at work I was excited to do that. But a few years ago, I'd just be like, oh, this is stupid. What am I doing? But I just wanted to be on my feet as much as possible, no matter how fast I was going. So I signed up for the Black Canyon double, the 100K and then the 60K the next day. Fortunately, for the first time in years, I got super sick and was vomiting, blowing chunks for like hours right before my flight left. So I ended up canceling that race. Signed up for 3 days of Silamo, which is the rugged 3-day 94-ish mile race they have in Arkansas in March. A lot of stuff, personal stuff, family stuff happened around that time, so I could not go. So I decided, I was getting frustrated that my goal training races were just not going well. So, against, I guess, anyone's advice, I don't even think I told Jen.
You didn't tell anybody. Yeah, you just went.
I did 4 straight races, like back to back, a marathon and 350Ks, all over the place, starting with grasslands, did Rambles, did Dan Man, did Brazos Bend, and I got faster at each one. Obviously, it's impossible not to be faster at Brazos Bend, but and I felt great. So I was encouraging, and I was like, okay, that's cool. So I was just angry that all my races were getting put to the side early on. And it was I told myself I wouldn't do the same thing I did last year, which if you looked at my schedule last year, especially early in the year, I was doing a lot of dumb stuff, a bunch of 100K, 69 mile, like all in succession. But I was like, dude, I can't revert back to this. What am I doing? But my body was holding up great. So when the summer hit, summer finally came around, I definitely don't want, like, I sweat more than anyone I ever met. So I don't want to go extra fat. This is perfect time for Moab training. So I did a lot of weighted vest workouts. I tried to follow Jen's schedule as much as I could. She can tell you, and I don't want to, like, it's just, this felt more like a personal journey for the first time between those races in Moab. I kind of did my own thing. I didn't run with anyone. And, I'm kind of out there all over the place with doing stuff with other people, but I was doing my own thing, and it felt great, which I think actually helped me with Moab early on, even though I was having a terrible time overall. But I would just do weighted vest stuff up here. I would run in the morning, maybe do weighted vest workout in the afternoon. I was in Houston a lot, still am in Houston a lot, doing stuff down there. They have no hills. It's terrible. You guys I don't know what's going on down there, Kathy, you and your hills or whatever. Just like, there's nothing. I just have to run up and down a damn levee. Like, it's annoying. So I would find a levee and run up and down it. But things started getting better at the end of the summer when I was able to go to Tahoe, and I think I had my best training cycle there. I did a pretty difficult 50K. It's still the most fun trail race I've ever done, Moab excluded. And then the next day, hiked this terrible mountain. It was like, oh, it's only 9,000 something feet up high, but you're just bouldering up it the whole entire time. And but I felt great afterwards, and even ran along the lake the very next day. I was like, wow, my body's holding up great. But main thing, the training cycle was just back-to-back long days, and then running on tired legs the next day, and doing a lot of weighted vest stuff, because especially for me, I knew my pack was going to be loaded to the nines. Like, my whatever pack I was running with in Moab was just going to be a ridiculous size. I kept asking people, how big was this pack going to be? And they're, oh, not that heavy. And I'm like, oh, dude, I don't know what you're doing. But like, and I'm sure we'll get into that later, but weighted vest training and back-to-back long days were the key factors, and following Jen's plan whenever I could. So, yeah. Sorry, Jen.
It's okay.
Did we lose John?
Uh-oh.
Internet went down. Big storm over Fort Worth right now.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. John can sign in from his phone like me.
Yeah. All right. We'll segue. It's Jen's turn.
Oh, sorry. I
let's
was
message
asking
John.
to use his phone. All right. Well,
can someone message John really fast and tell him that? Oh yeah, do that. And while all right. Sorry. Go ahead.
All right, Kathleen. We'll just talk to you. Tell us about your Pacers and crew, and anything you want to tell us about that. Oh, there he is.
Okay. Oh, John's. Should I still go? Okay.
Yeah,
just go. Screw John.
Right.
John messed up.
Yeah, I want to cry just thinking about them. So Tommy was one of my crew. He's my coach. He was supposed to pace me, but he hurt his knee. So he couldn't, but he was crew. And then my husband was also a pacer. My friend Maria from Durango, Colorado, was going to pace the first 50-mile section. She's a super strong runner. So, and the only person that I knew would be pretty excited about doing 50 miles, just off the bat, could do it at any time. So I picked her, and she said yes. And then I had a surprise pacer. I had no idea they were bringing her in. I think I finished that section with Maria. So we're at mile 120, and I'm always thinking about quitting, but I see my best they open the doors of the van and I'm like, what are you guys doing? I'm fine. I don't need assistance into the van. And so I'm like crawling into the van, wondering why everyone's being weird. And I see my trail bestie, Sherry. And the first thought that comes to me is, oh crap, I can't quit now because you spent all this money and time to come over here and pace me. And so that was just a delightful surprise. And yeah, it definitely helped with the motivation to know that she had done that for me. But I think my whole crew and Pacers were people that I'm friends with and people that I love. And I think that made a huge difference. It was interesting to have my husband pace me. The first time he paced 2 different sections. And the first time he paced me, I thought, like, what can I get away with? Like, if I tell him this hurts, will he go easy on me? And he wasn't really going easy on me, but I had to tell him, like, you're going to have to force me to run. Like, you're going to have to be harder on me. He didn't let me take like little mini naps like everyone else did. So that was kind of mean, but overall he was a great pacer. He kept up a pretty fast pace. And I think, yeah, all my pacers were wonderful. And when I talked to other people out there, some people didn't have any pacers or they could only find one person to pace a section. So I think I was truly blessed to have so many pacers and crew to move me along, because not everyone had that. And I know for me, it made a huge difference to have, four different pacers, I guess. It was incredible. And I'm just lucky. I don't know if I would get that again.
All right. Well, John, we were just talking about pacers and crew. So what about you?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, my dog is terrified of this storm, so he's like in my lap.
Oh my gosh, do you have a corgi?
See him? No, he's a red healer husky mix.
Oh,
named Puffers.
His head looks like a corgi. I have a corgi.
It's a beautiful dog, but I have
it is a beautiful dog.
Animosity towards it. Some issues with him.
So, he just has a good read on people.
Okay, John.
Anyways, yeah. So I guess crew and pacers. So I am so lucky to have had the people I had with me. I had my dad, who's a 25-year triathlete. He comes to all my races. He's got it dialed now. He knows what I want, and when something's going wrong, he often knows how to fix it. And then my one of my best friends, Matt, who's a climbing buddy of mine, he was crew for the first time. I call him the Julia Childs of men. He's the best cook that I know. And so he was like, all right, John, what foods do you want? And I was like, pasta with olives, and he would whip up a big bag of pasta with olives. And, even at one of the aid stations, they're like clearing out trash and they pull out this big bag of pasta with olives. And she's like, well, that's bougie. And she's like, this is heavy as shit. Do you want me to get rid of this? And I was like, no, it's my pasta with olives. That's like my secret weapon. So it was funny. The first time I saw them was at mile 70. That's the first time we could see our crew. And they weren't dialed at all. That first station, I was like, I need chafe. Lube. I need wipes. I need this. And they just looked kind of spaced out. They had everything that I needed, but they didn't know where it was. And so, after that, they went back to the Airbnb and dumped everything out, reorganized. Dad noticed I kept asking what's next on the course. And so eventually he had just had the whole course memorized of hey, you got 15 miles the next day with 2 hills and this much climbing. And then Matt's like, I got pasta, I got pizza, I got, tamales. Not quite that aggressive, but so that was amazing from a crew perspective. And then pacers, I had Garen Hill, who ran Moab 240 last year, and he was the first to volunteer some miles. He was like, John, I want to pace you mile 70 through 120. He's like, it's a hard stretch and no one's going to want to do it, but I want to call dibs. And I'm like, Garen, I guarantee you none of my other pacers have called, or no one's called dibs on doing a 50-mile stretch through a hard section with me, so it's all yours. So had Garen, he was awesome to have. I had Arturo come last minute, and what a lifesaver. I mean, he did 40 miles through arguably some of the hardest sections too. He did the La Salle's section, basically from where is it? From 167 to 200. And then Arturo's coworker actually did like 16 or 18 mile stretch with me, and he had never run that far before. And he was super nice dude, geology stud, and he was like, he kept stopping to look at rocks, you know. He'd be like, oh shit, here's a good one. And then I started like, you know, it distracted me because I was like, oh, what about that one, you know. Anyways, so I had amazing crew and pacers, and basically my pacers covered collectively 100 miles with me. I had to cover the rest on my own, including the last 38. So it worked out well. I wouldn't have had it any other way. It's hard to get someone to pace for the entire stretch from 70 to 240. It's just, even if you have a bunch of badass ultra running friends, it's hard to convince someone to run, you know, 100 with you or anything longer. So it's nice just to have some people enjoy the journey and, you know, help you in those hard parts. It worked out great.
All right, Andrew.
Jen, before Andrew goes, I forgot that I had Jerry pace me through the La Salles. And he's gonna kill me because that was the worst part. And he took over for Tommy, so it was like a last minute switch. So if Jerry ever listens to this, I'm in so much trouble.
Hey, you remembered. Okay. Andrew.
Oh, me. Okay.
Yes,
but I do agree. That was also the worst part. But just like both of you said, this wasn't almost impossible to get anyone on board to do. I know a lot of people out there were solo, and if anything, they would convince their families. If people did have people, it would usually be their family members, because I mean, you really can't say no with family. I mean, they can't reject you. That's kind of messed up. But it was looking extremely grim for me. Like, even like the month going into Moab, I was potentially going to have maybe only one pacer and no crew. And I'm not someone that likes to ask aggressively. I didn't ask as much as I probably should. I'd maybe jokingly ask, like, hey, you're near Utah, you should come, like, help me out with Moab, winky face, whatever. I don't know, stuff like that. So originally it looked like I was only gonna possibly have Regina from Houston pace me, but she was doing the Houston Marathon, or I'm sorry, Chicago Marathon that same weekend. Yeah. And she wouldn't be able to come down until immediately after the Chicago Marathon to do the last 40 miles with me, which on paper is all downhill. And it's like, I feel like I need someone early on, especially for the section John's saying, that 50-mile stretch from 120, like 70 to 120 through the Bajo Mountains, and then the infamous Shea Mountain section. I mean, it wasn't looking great. And I think, I don't remember what it was, like maybe 2 months before, a month and a half before, kind of casually threw it out there. Chad kind of casually threw it out there. And Chad Turner, he just kind of like offered to help, like kind of out of nowhere. I don't remember how it got brought upon. I didn't even take it serious. I thought he was just joking or something. If you know, Chad Turner is the first pacer I've ever had, and he's probably pacing more than anyone. And I was kind of shocked by it. And so he agreed, because he's on a tight schedule, to pace me from mile 70 to 120. And I warned him so many times, like, about this section. And I don't think he knew what he was getting into. And I think even if you ask him now, he will agree. He has some words about that section. But so I was able to get him. So at the very least, it looked like I had him and Regina. And then, but all of a sudden, Michelle Baker, she's one of the people from Utah. I mean, she lives here in Fort Worth, but she goes to Utah all the time. I don't know how she has the time. And she's one of the people. It's like, I messaged her. It's like, I know you're going to be in Utah around this time. I didn't know. I just assumed, because she's always there. She's like, Andrew, yeah, you're right. I have a females camping trip in Zion the week before. I'll see if I can do something, make it work. And she kind of put me on hold for a long time, which, I was patient with her. Obviously, I'm not going to be like, oh, I need to know now if she can do it. So I didn't know till closer to the race exactly when she could come. But her timing worked out great that she would be able to come to pace miles 120 to 160, which is hilarious because she's a mountain woman and that section ain't anything. It's just an empty giant Jeep road. So, but hey, it's still better than nothing. So going into the race, I was, showing up to Moab. I had no crew. I had Chad Turner pacing the first section, Michelle pacing 120 to 160, and then Regina pacing 200 to 240, and no crew and no one to pace me through the La Salles. And, I'm sure a lot of people know by now, the idea was to run with my friend Mo from beginning to end. And, I get into it a lot on the other areas that I discussed, the Moab 240, but he ended up, because of, dropping, and ended up being the pacer for me for the La Salle section, and ended up being a crew for the rest of the race, which I would definitely not finish if it wasn't for him. So I owe everything to him. So, and he drove me home afterwards. So because of him, his race not going well, he ended up being a crew member and a pacer for me. So I was fortunate in that regard. But going into it, like I said, even during the race, it was a mess as far as preparation. And I think Jen messaged something to us saying that I should have been more aggressive with asking. But I'm just not an aggressive person, Jen. People love me. I don't want to disappoint them.
That's
it's
not
It's
true.
so weird though how you're aggressive in some ways,
Yeah.
but not in others.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll bite your head off, but with so.
What I learned from my last race is but I learned it after, but this is probably a good lesson for all of us. None of us should be afraid to ask because I didn't think anyone wanted to go to Grindstone. It's Virginia. It's not it's not Utah. It's not the mountains in Colorado. And honestly, I wasn't sure how my race was going to go. So I didn't want to drag anybody out there for, 30 plus hours. But then, I got back and I went completely solo. But then I was like, I would have went with you. So I just didn't ask, and it snuck up on me.
Ask people
I know
either.
Jen's bad about that too.
I hate it.
But any races, you should, people want to be a part of hundreds. People definitely want to be a part of 200s. Now Moab's with the longer stretches. Not everybody can just jump in, but I think it's a good lesson that we should all not be afraid to ask because people want to be a part of something special, and we should give them the opportunity. So the next question is more tactics. So I wanted to see everyone's sleep strategy. I know just in the 2 years that I've been at Cocodona, a lot has changed as far as sleep. I remember the first year, a lot of elites trying to run all the way through, and I think go on the Courtney DeWalter, sleep like 5 minutes the whole time. But I think in the second year, I saw more elites taking planned sleep breaks. So I wanted to see what everyone's strategy was on that. If you want to start, John.
Yeah, so everyone pretty much told me that the sleep aspect of the race would be really hard to plan. Like you can plan for it, but it's, hard to know what your body's going to do at any given point. So my coach, Mike, had said, hey, try and make it to the second night at least on as little as possible, if not, none at all. And then take like a 90-minute to 2-hour nap at like 10 p.m. the second night, and then push another 24 hours till 9 or 10 p.m. the third night, and then do another 90 minutes, 2 hours. If you can do that, you'll keep moving fast. And so I kind of had that framework in mind. It didn't exactly work out that way. I think I basically didn't start sleeping until Garen picked me up. I took like a 5-minute trail nap and then a 15-minute cot nap at one of the aid stations leading up to mile 120. So I didn't quite make it to the second night. The body just gets tired and you're like, I need 5 minutes. And truly, like, that helps, you know.
How many dirt naps did you take total?
3. Yeah, 3 total, just 5 minutes each. So yeah, basically I slept, once I get to Shea Mountain at mile 120, I slept about 45 minutes, which was a total recharge for me. So that put me just over an hour of sleep for, you know, roughly 120 miles halfway through. So I was stoked with that. And then I did the section from Dry Valley to Road 46 on my own. And that section was at night. It was cold. I was alone. This long ass dirt road section in the middle of BFE, Utah. And the shrubs shifted into like a set of 4 jaguars. And they were like napping, and then they like popped up from their nap and looked at me. Super trippy. It tripped me out because it was pretty quick, like the change from not hallucinating to hallucinating for me. And then the shrubs shifted into like house cats that were just standing sentinel, staring at me. And then it shifted into people. Like I saw a guy with a surfboard and a guy with like a kid on his shoulders. And, you know, I knew it was not real, but you're seeing it. And, the trippiest part of that section was I looked to the right and I'm like, oh my God, there's a KKK rally going on in that field over there. It looked like a burning cross and a bunch of guys were standing around it. And I was like, what in the fuck? Sorry for the language. And it turns out I got to the next aid station and they're like, oh no, that is fire, but it's a oil field and they're burning off the natural gas. So I saw a bunch of like oil field workers basically thought it was a KKK rally. At least I wasn't hallucinating the fire. But so that's when I knew I was like, okay, it's time for another 45-minute nap. And that was basically at that aid station after that long, lonely dirt stretch. And then I didn't sleep again until mile 200. And at that point, it was through the toughest section in the La Salles. I was with Arturo, and in the last mile and a half or so, you're like done with this horrendous mountain section, pops you on a dirt paved road, and you're like, thank Christ, I'm finally at the aid station. No, you got to climb like 1,500 feet. And the aspens started turning into giants and walking around. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to do a 2-hour nap. It was the longest sleep I got at Moab. I actually got an hour 45 and, you know, total recharge before the last 38 miles. The only thing I'll say about that sleep is it was the most horrendous because my crew had good intentions. They had a car running and heated for me because there's no heat sources allowed at that mile 200 sleep tent because it's in the mountains. They don't want a fire starting. And so my dad and Matt were like, we got the car warmed up for you. I hop in there. It's like 20 degrees outside, or it feels like it. And they're blasting the AC or the heat on like 85. And so I'm like, okay, I can't sleep in this. You know, it's too hot. I turn it down to like 72 and, you know, a little ways down. And I wake up, they wake me up an hour 45 later. I told them to give me 2 hours. So I was mad about that. And I was cooking alive because they had it turned back up to 85, turned up like all the way. And I was like a baked turkey, you know, just, oh my God, I woke up so nauseous. Like, this is horrendous. What did you do to me? You know, I was like, this is going to screw up my whole last 38 miles. I feel awful. And then, you know, I quit being so dramatic and I got outside and cooled off and ate food. And that's my sleep schedule. 4 hours total for me for 78 and a half hours of running.
Not bad. Kathy?
So I think the first time I slept was at mile 70 before I had got my pacer, and I can't remember what time of day it was. I think I got there when it was still night, early morning. And I slept for I think 80 minutes. The second time I slept, I think it was the second day before I went out with maybe Sherry. So after the 50 miles, and I slept for 90 minutes. And then each time I was able to just wake up on my own. Like I kind of knew it was time to get going. And I remember seeing Tommy I'd wake up, I'd see him, and I'd be like, oh crap, gotta go out again. Like, here we go. And I think that's when he says I gave him the sass. I'm not sure. But then after that, I think I didn't have much I don't think I had much sleep after that. When I got to mile 200, I tried to sleep for 45 minutes. Tommy only gave me 45. I wanted like 4 hours at that point, and he was not cooperating with me. He gave me 45 minutes, and I knew that wasn't enough. I was getting really tired, and he said I had started to implement this thing with Maria starting at mile 70 where, well, it may have been later on, but every 5 miles I would take a 2-minute rest where I would find like a large rock and I'd put my feet up and elevate them for 2 minutes. And usually about 1:45, I got up and just knew like, all right, I'm ready to go. It was the best mental treat ever because I knew we just got to move 5 miles, then we can elevate the feet and everything will be okay. And so I just kept doing that for 5 miles. So that's the part that I say like Jason didn't really let me do. He was like, we can't find big rocks, blah, blah, blah. And so with Maria, I did that and it was excellent. And then when Jerry paced me, which I'm so sorry I forgot you, Jerry. He was excellent. We couldn't find rocks, and this was starting to the LaSalle section. And he was like, we don't need rocks. He's like, I can lift your feet up. And so he just like lifted them up. And so like the elevation was incredible. Like they were all the way elevated. I didn't need to use a rock. So that was just amazing. So yeah, I had I think 3 naps, one 80 minutes. The second one was 90, I think. The third was 45, but it was really only 20 minutes. And so when Jason and I went out, I was exhausted. This is mile 200. He was doing the last like 38 with me. We start running, walking with some people. We meet up. I think, there's several people we're with walking, and we're going to Porcupine Rim. We're getting closer, and there's all these like cattle. I think they're called cattle guards that you have to cross. And I like see this lady who's like just a family member, like just cheering people on. And I was like, it's really weird that she's out there. And then all of a sudden her clothes change into like this little pool dress and like these like little like froofy shoes. And I'm like, what is she doing out here? And then we keep going. And then I keep seeing this aid station. It's like a white aid station that looks kind of like a garage. And these girls keep closing the garage door. And then the aid station just keeps disappearing. And then I saw it again. And so I asked Jason and this guy, John, we were with, I'm like, did you guys see that aid station? They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the white aid station. It was just there. He's like, no, we're not at the aid station just yet. And so they put me in between them because I just kind of kept like tipping over, and like they're like, we don't want you to fall down, like can you stay in between us? And so like they were walking with me in between them, and I told Jason, when I get to that aid station I need to sleep. And so we got there at Porcupine Rim, and there was a cot, and I was able to, he let me sleep for 30 minutes. He said 20 to 30. And I was just like, you guys are stupid. I need more sleep. Like, you don't get it. And Porcupine Rim was like a Halloween decked out aid station. And so Jason said there was this guy, like the captain, dressed as a shark, and people were like shouting shark. And he was so worried that I was going to wake up. And there's like all this like commotion, and I was just out. Like I didn't hear a thing. There was a sweet lady there who was super worried about me, and she didn't want me to like go out. And Jason's like, she's fine. She's done this before. I haven't done 200. I don't know why he said that, but he's like, she's fine. She's capable. She can do this. And she's like, I'm so worried about her. And she's like holding my arm. So thank God I wasn't there alone, because I think somebody could have talked some fear into me. But at that aid station, there were porta potties. And so one of the biggest mistakes I kept making is I would leave an aid station without using the bathroom. And then I'd go out and I'd be like, oh crap, I have to go to the bathroom. Like, so I don't know if other people do have that mistake, but I kept making that mistake. But Jason kept saying, when you go to the porta potty, don't be afraid of the spider. Like, it's okay. And I didn't know what he meant. And I went to the porta potty and I had my Kagala light, and I'm like, okay, I don't even need lights. Like, there's Halloween lights. This is so fun. So later, as we carried on, I started to remember the spider, and I'm like, oh, he meant like the Halloween decoration spider. I was like looking for a real spider in the porta potty, and I like didn't see anything. But anyway, sorry for that tangent. that was about my sleep stories. And the end of the race with Jason, like, he didn't really let me do those every 5 mile 2-minute rest. So, oh wow.
Thanks. Well, good. You have to share your hallucination story in this one, Andrew. So keep going.
You say I have to share it?
Well, we were going to talk about hallucinations later, but since John and Kathy already talked about theirs, so
we'll do
it on
this. I go into extreme detail about hallucinations on my other recap that will be coming out on Wednesday. But sleeping was probably the worst thing about this race, other than the major issue I had with my big toe probably needing to be amputated. But sleeping was just terrible. Overall, I want to say I actually probably only got like an hour of actual sleep. So the plan was just like John's. Like, I would like to go 2 nights before having to sleep. But with everything that went wrong with the race early on that had nothing to do with the race, my timing got pushed back really bad. I wanted to be at the mile 71 aid station at like maybe 5 a.m., 6 a.m. It didn't happen because everything going on. Didn't get there till 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. And guess I'm expecting to see Chad Turner there show up. There's no Chad Turner. And I'm like, and Indian Creek is a huge aid station, and the parking lot is like, I swear to God, like a mile away from the aid station, the crew parking lot. So all of a sudden, I'm like fast walking over the crew parking lot. Is like, Chad over here? I don't see anyone. I have no signal, and I'm like, oh my God, am I about to drop this race because I don't know where anyone is? I don't know where my friend I was supposed to be running with is. Is he mad at me? What's going on? And again, I go into full detail in this elsewhere, but I can't get a hold of anyone. I can't message anyone, no signal, but for some weird reason, I'm able to call Jen. Like, I don't know what happened, why I can call Jen. I get a brief message from Regina, but she doesn't get my messages back. So I called Jen, and by God, I don't know what she's doing. She's probably at another volleyball or cricket game with Allie or something, but she answers, and she's able to talk and communicate with Chad, my pacer. Because since I got to Indian Creek so late at 10 a.m., I didn't really want to sleep. I wanted to keep going. She got a hold of Chad, and apparently my pacer, who was now with Mo, who was my friend I was supposed to run with, who I found out at that moment dropped and was now going to crew with Chad, they got lost. They went 2 hours the other direction because Google Maps did something weird, and they ended up having to cross a stream by making a bridge. And they damaged the rental car and ruined it. And so that's a whole other story. So I heard Chad wouldn't be at the Indian Creek aid station for 2 more hours. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not even mad. I mean, I should be, but I'm not. I can sleep for 2 hours. There's no cots left inside the tents. There's a cot outside, and the person's like, oh, sleep at this cot. This cot, everyone wants it. You get to feel the breeze. I lie down on the cot, and then just the full force of the sun is just destroying me and heating me up like a baked turkey, like John said. I'm lying still for an hour and a half in that cot, not sleeping, with sheets over my head, trying to block out the sun. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm sweating. I'm losing fluids in the cot. This is not supposed to happen. Then all of a sudden I hear a familiar voice. I hear Mo and Chad. They tap me, wake me up. I pretend to wake up like I've been sleeping, but I did not sleep. Did not sleep at Indian Creek. It was terrible. We went out. I didn't sleep for the whole 50-mile section with Chad. And for the first time climbing up Shea Mountain, after you get down from the mountain, there's just a steep road you have to climb, which I heard rumors that Kathleen over here singing Disney songs. So that kind of disheartened me when I heard that she was singing up that mountain. When that was my first real low moment, I was like crying and zombie walking up that mountain. Like, I need sleep. It never ended. So I finally got some sleep at Shea Mountain Aid Station, which was for some reason I told Mo, wake me up in an hour. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, an hour? I need more than an hour, dude. What the hell? And Mo woke me up in like an hour. It took me 30 minutes to actually sleep. So I only got 30 minutes of sleep there. But Mo woke me up and he was stern. He was like a mad father, like, wake up. It's time to go. So Michelle grabbed me. She started pacing me, and it was dark. I guess it was 24 hours later. But it was also dark during that road section John was talking about. And that's when I really started to hallucinate. Again, the bushes were everything that you could ever imagine. The shrubs were out there to get you. And then you're seeing black specks all over the road. And I actually was running again pretty well. Michelle, I don't know if it's because she's advanced age or something, or her eyesight's poor, but I'm the one over here trying to hallucinate. And I have a good reason to hallucinate because I'm 130, 140 miles in this race. I start seeing black silhouettes and black dots on the Jeep road, and they're moving. And sometimes I see them sit down and get up, and you're just like I don't know what it is. I'm tripping out because compared to actual hallucinations I'm seeing, I know they're not real, but I'm certain that these are real. And it's like, is my vision going out? And Michelle can't see them. So I think I'm losing my damn mind. And then we're actually moving fast. We pass a lot of people in these sections. We go up to these black silhouettes, and they're actual people. They're runners who turn off their headlamps because the night sky just lights the way. And I get kind of mad at Michelle. I'm like, because I thought I was internally, I was panicking. I'm okay. This is beyond hallucinations. This thing is not going away. During that section, I also became a zombie at the very end. Going into, I think, whatever the mile 140-ish aid station was. I think the same one John had to sleep at. I told Michelle I had to sleep. Probably got 30 minutes of sleep there. Woke up, started running again. I was great. Went to road 46 aid station at mile 167. And at the end, I was a zombie there. And my blister was so bad that they had to carry me to a tent without my shoes on because they didn't want me to step on the medicine. They refused to wrap and again, I explain all this later. They refused to wrap my toe at the time because they want the medicine to dry out and want me to rest first. I rode 46 was the last time I slept at all, even had a dirt nap. Road 46, I was out in the cot for like an hour and a half, but I, again, only probably slept for 30-ish or so minutes. But it was enough. So I want to say I probably only slept for anywhere from an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours. But that, which, 2 hours of sleep. But the most damning part, the worst part is that my lie motionless in a cot time was it felt like it was 7 hours. So all this wasted time trying to sleep, especially the Indian Creek where I basically did not sleep. And I did have the only good dirt naps I had were with Chad, but they were short. Even Chad needed some dirt naps, man. That Shea Mountain section was no joke, but did not sleep at all. And going into the LaSalle section felt like just pure survival. So I didn't want to even sleep. It's just with Mo, I'm with Mo at the point, surviving. I don't want to sleep. I sit down on a log for a while and contemplate everything, thinking I need to be rescue helicoptered out of the section because my big toe hurts so much. But I'm like, we can't stay still. We have to keep going. So I don't sleep in that section. And that hill, John, you're talking about running up to Geyser Pass mile 200, which is a steep hill. Believe it or not, I ran that entire hill as fast as I could, and I dropped my pacer because I thought I was about to miss cutoffs. And I remember running into that aid station at mile 200, yelling Regina's name because we got to go, Regina. Like I couldn't find her anywhere. It was scary. So obviously no sleep there. And then the whole 40 miles, the last 40 miles was pure just, I need to make up time, got to keep going. I become a zombie going into Porcupine Rim at mile 220. I start zombie walking at the end from like 218 to 220. Even though I was passing everyone, I swear to God, I went from last place to like passing 7-8 people, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're back from the dead." And I was feeling great until, that Porcupine Rim aid station where I could not walk straight. I needed to sleep, but we sat down, ate some food. The volunteer told me I shouldn't sleep here. And I told Regina, I don't think I should sleep here. We should just keep going. And so the last 20 miles of the race on no sleep, and since we're talking about hallucinations at this point, I do not know what reality is anymore. I don't even think I'm in a race anymore. The last 20 miles, I don't know what's going on. I thought the race was over. I thought the buckle was mine. I thought we were just running around on Porcupine Rim, which is technical slick rock. Like it's downhill, but it's not a fun downhill, especially for someone my size. And all I know in my head is Regina kept saying, "Oh, you just got to average a 25-minute pace." And for some reason, I just thought in my delusions that I just can run around in a circle and average a 25-minute pace. And I don't know what cutoffs are anymore. And again, you're going to want to listen to my 4-hour account of this on the other podcasts I do, because I go into, especially this section, I go in detail about it. But I actually don't know where I am or what I'm doing, and I don't know what's going on. And Regina was so patient with me, and I didn't know if I scared her. I didn't know what cutoffs were because I'm not sleeping. You can't afford to sleep. And so it wasn't the visual hallucinations that were the worst. It was the delusions that I don't know what reality is anymore. I don't know where we're at. I just remember I was panicking. I'm like, why would they do this to us? I thought why is Destination Trail doing this to us? I thought the race was over. What are they doing, man? This is nonsense. Like, I thought we would never get off this rim. It's 11 miles of straight downhill technical slick rock. And I thought we were stuck there forever, and I didn't know what was going on. But I mean, I can go on and on about this section. I won't, but trust me, this is the most unbelievable mental breakdown I've ever had. And the worst part is at the end, and you guys can probably relate, before you get on the 3-mile bike path road, it's very technical, climbing down like the canyon side onto the highway. I've never been to Moab before, but all of a sudden I have been to Moab before. I knew what was coming up next, and it came true. But I don't know that we're in a race at this point. I just told Regina, I know what's coming next. This is coming, and it came true. It's like, holy cow. Like, but I was nonchalant about it because I knew it was coming next. Not only that, but I thought I was slowing Regina down. So I told Regina to go, you can go ahead. You can just leave me because I don't know what we're doing. I think it's a hike. So the sleep really screwed me over the last 40 miles, specifically the last 20 miles. Sleeping was a hot mess. It was terrible, but I know what to do now. 100% know what to do now going in the future. Don't rely on sleep stations. Don't be afraid to take a dirt nap, and definitely bring something better than earplugs. Earplugs won't cut it. In my future 200 milers, which I will be doing again, I'm going to bring AirPods because they have the best noise cancellation. Mm-hmm. So I already know how to fix it, because once there was no noise, I could sleep. But yeah, it was just a metric crap ton of tripping out at the very end there because of the lack of sleep.
Yeah.
So
carry a bivy so you can sleep when it's chilly, and AirPods so you can block out the noise even at sleep stations. So yeah, you guys make me a little jealous, because I've never had a good hallucination, anything close to that. So, but I did sleep a lot at Cocodona, so it's completely different. But still,
sounds like none of us really slept well, to be honest. So,
all right. Oh, this is Jen's question.
Oh, sorry. I thought I heard something weird. Okay, John, we'll start with you again. Best practices or or advice for anyone attempting their first 100?
First 100 or first 200?
Oh, sorry, first 200. I was still focused. Like, I was like, is that a freaking it? Anyway, the storm's at my house now, and I was thinking I was hearing
It's
something.
loud.
Is it hailing?
Yeah.
No, it's just raining. It's raining pretty hard.
Gosh, I mean, it's so hard to go from 100 miles or just to like mentally wrap your head around taking the longest distance you've ever run, doubling it plus some. Like there's so much uncertainty, and so I think all the techniques that make you successful during a 100-miler can still be applied here. Really, the extra distance is all about being able to mentally break it down into manageable chunks and just have a good head on your shoulders. There's going to be lows. There's going to be really tough sections. For me, the easiest way to break Moab down was by aid station, because it's pretty good distance between aid stations, but I saw there's about 18 to 20 aid stations for the whole course. So each time I found myself at an aid station, that's like, boom, I just got 1 out of 18 or 1 out of 20 aid stations done. It sounded way easier than 240 miles. So each time I was at an aid station, I was like, fuck yeah, let's, we're here. And so that mentally helped me. I think just smiling and trying to take in the experience and not really focus on your watch and on your pace is key. You can, like early on, I had some 9 or 10 minute miles, and at one point through the LaSalle's, I had a 37-minute mile, and can be easy to be like, oh my God, 37-minute mile. If I keep on this pace, I'm going to finish like in 2 weeks. But you can't think about any individual mile. It's just like moving forward efficiently as possible, taking care of anything that's going wrong, whether it's a hot spot, like addressing it early, because small problems become big problems down the race. So one of the best things that happened to me that helped so much was at Shea Mountain. I was taking off my shirt to change shirts, and this woman from like aid station worker from like way across, she was like, wait, what is that? And my lower back had been getting chafed by my pack so much because of all the weight and crap in there. And it bothered me, but I didn't think to mention it. And she noticed it, and she puts tape on it, and that saved my back for the rest of the race. I mean, without it, it would have been horrendous. So it's little things like that can make a big difference in a long race. And people say find your why, and it's for me, I don't think the why is any set answer. It's just kind of a try and push past perceived limitations, do something really challenging and that tests your true potential and grit. And I don't know, it's just good to stay positive, and smiling helps, even when it hurts, and making jokes and singing songs and doing all the things that make you comfortable in a very uncomfortable setting.
Kathleen?
I have some practical advice before I forget. Pants, I started running in these John G pants, but they're like joggers. So that means that you have to take your shoes and gaiters off to put them on and off. So that was a big mistake. I should have got pants with a zipper, and I didn't have those on me. So that was just a lesson learned. So pants that are easy to slip on over shoes would have been a good thing. I did wear gaiters. I don't know if anyone didn't wear gaiters, but there still ended up like tons of sand in my shoes. I taped my feet, and that's how I practiced several times, even at Wonderland Trail, which was the 3-day event. At one point, my Injinji toe socks, which I guess Tommy and Jason think, why am I taping my feet and wearing toe socks? But whatever, I'm doing what I'm doing. We decided to cut the toe socks because I think they're too tight on my toes. And when we get to, I don't know what's the next station after mile 70, the one after that.
The island.
Yeah, the island. I'm like, this is not working out. And I had more socks in my bag. So I took the time to sit down. I was so tired at that aid station, but I cleaned up my feet. I brought baby wipes on me, which I think is a great thing to bring because I needed them several times during the race. Like when I decided to lube myself and then sit in sand and then had sand like caked to my thighs, I needed a baby wipe that off. So um, baby wipes came in handy. But I took the baby wipes and took all the sand off of my feet and then put a new pair of Injinji toe socks on, and I didn't have any blisters or problems with my feet. So I did see some nasty feet out there from like the sand and the heat, like habanero 100 looking feet. So I think that sand and sweat can really get to you. So I do recommend finding a solution that works for you. Greg suggested I get a half size bigger and then another half size bigger of my shoe. And I don't know if I really needed it or not, but having a brand new shoe, especially because I wear the Hoka Speed Goats, they just like scrunched down. I felt like my shoe just like all the foam was gone. So it was great to have a new pair of shoes to put on. It definitely helped my mood. And each time I got to my crew, I changed my socks and my shoes, or I guess I did that 3 times. So that was really helpful to just clean out all the sand and put a new pair of socks on. I think that helped me from getting any foot issues. The pack was heavy, half the weight of Andrew's, but it was still heavy. I think it may have been like 12 pounds. I'm not sure. Maybe it was a little more. But they put a spot tracker on you, and I don't know if anyone else had issues, but my spot tracker was killing my shoulder, and I forgot to ask them to move it. I think I still have like a scar on my shoulder from it. My back, other than that, which I think was a great distraction. It's great to have a distraction of something that causes a little pain, but not enough to stop you. But after the race, my shoulders really hurt. So I know I did a lot of arm and strength stuff, but I still think great advice is practicing with a weighted vest or a pack. I think that's great. And then I just always refilled my water at the aid stations. Like I think having water is really important. And I heard they ran out at some point, but I was always able to refill my water. I wish I had ice. They didn't really have ice at the ones I had gone to, but staying cool was important. And then one other piece of advice I could think of is, before Moab, I thought I should buy candy, and I don't really eat candy at races. Like not really anyway. And I thought I should buy candy, and I didn't. And I really wanted candy during the race. My pacer, Jerry, who I will not forget again, had gummy worms, and they were amazing. And I wanted all his food, so I guess I just wanted whatever I couldn't have myself. My snacks sucked. I probably won't eat fig bars ever again. My tongue became like swollen and numb, and my throat became numb from all the sugar and the electrolyte beverages. I don't know if that's happened to anyone else, but that I kind of stopped wanting electrolytes. I stopped wanting anything with sugar, minus the gummy worms. So that was like another lesson learned. Maybe I don't know. Maybe this is good advice. I'm not sure.
I got that same feeling with the lots of sugar or a tailwind for me, and your tongue gets kind of swollen and just gross. Toothbrush helps. I brushed my teeth at Shea Mountain halfway, and it was a beautiful thing. Just run 100 miles and you'll be great for the dentist. So that's another advice for you kids.
I definitely second that. Like I put little mini toothbrushes in my drop bags, and that was the best. That was just so refreshing. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I didn't do any of that. So that's fun. I guess I'm gonna go now.
Dirty,
yeah, might as well. I guess I'll just keep talking at this point and take over. Everything that I was told about before this race about what I should take care of. The most important thing. The top 3 are eating, sleeping, and feet. And 2 of those things were the worst part of my race. And a lot of extra stuff that had nothing to do with the race just distracted me, and mentally I was in a bad place almost instantly. I had so much go wrong, and I still finished and again, I'm I'm a tall guy, and bigger, heavier set. I mean, and I still finished in spite of all these things, which to me just says like this is just a mental thing. My body gave out so long ago in this race because of I don't know exactly what happened. I did awesome change my toe socks every 15 to 20 miles. Everything was great, except unfortunately, I guess before the race, I didn't take care of my huge calluses that I have, which all the medics were like, you can't treat it as a blister because you have this large callus and we're afraid to go in it. So apparently, three of the medics was like, you needed a pedicure before this race. I'm like, well, shoot, now I know. So maybe if you have a lot of big calluses on your toes, get those addressed beforehand. Because I did, I thought I did everything perfect with my feet. Brought all sorts of shoes, different sizes, bigger throughout the race. Everything felt fine until it didn't. The sleep, man, like I wish I knew just how to. It's tough, and I think for those that have done 100-milers, you know, you're not going to sleep during a 100-miler. So it's just a weird mental thing going into a race thinking you're going to sleep at mile 70, no matter how slow you're going. It just felt weird. But I definitely suggest, no matter where you sleep, bring something to help you sleep or cancel the noise. And one thing that helps for me, if you're really bad and you're really in a bad place and you really need it, some people take a dirt nap and then take a caffeine pill right before they take a dirt nap and they wake up, and that's not something you can abuse because it loses effectiveness. But I resorted to that at the end of the race. But I think the biggest piece of advice is just know going into this that this is a purely mental thing. All you need to know is just how to go forward. Kept telling myself I had no choice but to go forward. Walk, crawl. You can average a 28:13 pace, I think, this entire race. All you have to do is just keep marching forward. Now, obviously, you need the physical attributes, like you need to learn how to be on your feet and move a lot. But I mean, that will come in training over time. Just know going into this race, this is just 100% mental. Because again, my body gave out not even halfway through this race, and I still pulled through. And I didn't even mention it yet. Kathleen wasn't joking. My pack was probably the heaviest pack on the entire course because I sweat so much that I had the capability of carrying 9 liters of fluid, which is easily over 20 pounds alone. During that 26-mile stretch in the first day in the sun, I was strapped to the nines, my friends. I was carrying something fierce. But all the all the strength training exercises I've been doing, not once did I have any body discomfort. That's the miracle of this race is despite my foot issue with the blister, my muscular bones, just everything was perfect. No hamstring issues, no. Like I felt like if it wasn't for my blister, I could start running 2 days later. But here I am 2 weeks later, can't run because of my blister still. But learn how to manage what you're carrying. I felt like my pack was a mess. I didn't know how to get smaller because all the mandatory gear. But that's something I'll work on. So if you plan on carrying a lot of stuff, you gotta practice with that and do strength training exercises. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is definitely just mentally preparing yourself for this race, because I think anyone can complete it with proper training, but mainly just the mental mindset and not necessarily having to have a why. Like John said, I don't think I 100% ever had a real why. I had more reasons to not do it, to quit, and especially to quit, than I ever did to keep going forward. It became just as simple as I have no choice but to go forward. And that's all it took. I mean, I had one motivation when I ran up that hill at mile 200, which was I didn't want Regina to come all the way here for no reason. I didn't want her to show up at the aid station just to drive me home. I would have felt super terrible. So that was one motive. But other than that, I think I just wanted to do it, and I didn't necessarily have a why. I mean, so you may have a why, you may not. I think it's okay for you not to really have a why. like John said. I just think just mentally preparing yourself and just time on your feet, the foot stuff, planning your sleep, and eating real food early and often. And I think that was the best part of my race. I ate like 2 large items before I slept, and when I woke up, I would eat 2 more large items. I ate like a pig. It was great. But yeah, I don't know. I'm probably not a great person to ask about all this because everything went wrong.
So why were you in a wheelchair afterwards?
Okay, my blister. So here's the funny
It was
thing.
that bad?
Right after the race, I originally planned on, by the way, I drove to Moab because I'm carrying my gear plus Mo's gear plus some of Regina's gear. So I'm driving, and I don't have a crew, so I need a rental vehicle anyway. So I drove all the way to Moab. My plan was to drive back and sleep in increments on the way back. Thankfully, Mo canceled his flight and drove me back home. So we went right after the race. All I did was wake up the next morning, which was not that many hours later. I finished near 11 p.m., so I woke up like 7 hours later. We ate breakfast, and instantly Mo's just like, I'm driving you home, buddy. And I'm in a car for 14 hours. We don't stop at all other than for gas, cramping, dead. And Mo he literally drops me off and ditches me because he has to hurry up and catch his flight at 6 a.m. that he just was scheduled for. So he has to Uber to the flight. And I am just left alone, debilitated, can barely make it into my apartment. Then I crawl into my bed, and I lost my phone in New Mexico, by the way. So I have to crawl into my bed, turn on my Xbox, which I have not used in forever other than to watch shows, and had to log into Facebook Messenger from my Xbox because I'm too crippled to go to my computer, or I'm sorry, yeah, my actual computer to message people, because I can just do this from my bed and message my mom. Because she's not too far away from me. And my mom, just like that, the next morning, because she drives up here, schedules me a podiatrist appointment, and then because I have no phone, and a phone appointment at AT&T, and she rents a wheelchair for $1 a day from a pharmacy and brings it up, and this wheels me around. The funniest thing is, to get to her car in the parking garage, you have to go up a ramp, and she stops halfway up the ramp, and I think we're going backwards, and I start screaming. I'm like, no, we're gonna die. This is terrible. My foot was so bad, and at that point I started to swell because of the race. It put more pressure under the deep blister. I was immobile. For a day and a half, I could not do anything. So she took me to the podiatrist. I get put on a bunch of meds, and I'm in bed screaming for pain. And then I'm like, oh, I have to drive down to Houston to go to Big Ben in like 12 hours. He puts me on tramadol, some good painkillers. I suck it up. I limp my way to Houston to go to Big Ben's. And now here I am, finally on my way back home. But yeah, sorry, side tangent. I was immobile for about a day and a half. So.
All right. Okay. That was worth it. So we'll probably skip the listener questions since we're on hour 45.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I guess we already know the answer to one of these questions is, would you do another 200-mile race, since Andrew and John already kind of have one scheduled. So that'll be more for Kathy. So talk about, would you do another 200, and if yes or no, and what's next for all of you? We can start with Kathy.
Which ones are they doing? Which 200?
Cape Wrath.
It's
Scotland.
Scotland.
It's a stage race. You have to find your own way. Carry what you can carry. There's no aid stations except for the end of each day. You can go 40 miles without anything, and you have to have a compass and a map. It's honestly meant for me to die at. So I think doing Moab first is great. But yeah, sorry, Cape Wrath.
That's cool. Okay, I'll have to look that one up. Yeah, I don't have a race lined up. I'd love to try to find something at some point. I think after doing Moab, I'm kind of shocked that it happened. I mean, I guess we knew we could do it because we signed up, but I'm still in the shock phase where I'm like, what? I did that. I'm strong enough to do that. I don't really believe I did that. Like I can do hard things. That's crazy. So if there was like a 300 miler, that would be really cool. I feel like I'd get really excited about that. But I don't really know right now. If I had like tons of money, I'd sign up for Moab again. I mean, I can save up some money. But yeah, I'd love to do another 200, but I think something longer would excite me more.
John?
Sorry, my computer lagged like crazy there. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. When during Moab, I was like, "This is a one and done. This is a horrendous, stupid distance, and I'm good, fam." And I was telling that to the aid station crew at mile 220, and a lot of them had done like Moab, Bigfoot, or Tahoe, and they're like, "Oh, that's what we said too, haha." And and then by the next day after I finished Moab, I was like, okay, I could see myself doing Bigfoot and Tahoe too, because it just sounds like incredibly beautiful courses. And truly, the 200 mile is such a different race experience from the 100, which is what makes it so intriguing to me. And I had a fun experience. It felt otherworldly at times, very out of body, almost like running in a dream because you're running for so long. And it's, as Kathleen said, it's hard to wrap your head around. I'm still in the shock phase too of like, holy shit, I did that. And, for me, it was like one of the best races of my running career and one of the best race experiences just because it's so out there. And it's kind of, the course encompassed some of everything from the canyons to the mountains. You got your flats, you got your hills, you got your technical, you got your easy. It's just like a graduate test of running and maintaining your body over long distance. So anyways, long story short, as far as races coming up, the only one I'm signed up for right now is Cape Wrath next May. It's actually a stage race, so it's 240 miles, but it's over 8 days, and you're running a set distance each day. So going to be much more manageable comparative, but more tough in the sense that it's self-navigated. There's no course markings. You're self-sufficient during the day, so you're pulling water from the rivers, carrying all your nutrition. And then like the day 6 and 7 are both 45 plus mile days after you're heavy through the week. And so that's going to be an experience. And then I entered Hard Rock Lottery today. Low chances on that, obviously, but would love to get into that. And then UTMB I'll be entering for as well. My buddy Aaron, who's never run a 100 miler, Dino Valley will be his first 100. He got into Bigfoot next year, so I'll be pacing and crewing him. And then I should hopefully be pacing and crewing Garen at Tahoe 200 as well. So I'll get the fun side of things where I get to just do a short, tough, beautiful segment, and then have good comparison for when I do them in the future.
Cool. Andrew, you got any
100%. Just
secret
even
races?
when I was losing my mind, I wanted to do it again. Even when I was crying in the La Salle Mountains, I was like, I want to do this again. Which, by the way, can we just all agree that Shea Mountain climb was not only the steepest and most ridiculous thing that I'm pretty sure all three of us have done, but then to take us on a beautifully paved road downhill for a few miles, and then, oh, by the way, now you got to climb another 1,000 feet over 2 miles, or I'm sorry, like 1,500 feet or whatever it was, back to that was messed up. Can we all agree about that? It's stuff like that makes you not want to do this race again. But as far as doing it again, the next day I put myself on the wait list for Tahoe. Don't think I'm getting in because it's a pretty big wait list, but it's there. I saw some surprising names locally. I won't mention who they are, not including Garen, on the wait list, and I don't think they realize you can see them on the wait list. just look at the wait list. I'm not going to mention. You can look up yourself a pretty a familiar name near the top, so they're probably getting in and doing it. So I would love to support them if I couldn't get into the race. Since it's impossible to get into a 200 miler other than Cocodona right now next year, I have to really do I want to do Cocodona? I know that's a harder race for different reasons, especially with the heat. I definitely want to do one again. I'm content if I don't do one next year. And I would love to do the Triple Crown. I did Moab first because it's technically supposed to be the easiest, even though it's like the longest of the Triple Crown, right behind Cocodona. I met a lot of people who could do Moab or Bigfoot and Tahoe, but this was like their third attempt trying to do Moab because you see the extra 40 miles really makes a difference. So I'm aiming to do the triple. If the next time I do 200 miler is the Triple Crown, that'd be great. Oh, I'm forgetting Cape Wrath. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm doing Cape Wrath next year. I'm sorry. I'm losing. Yeah. I'm not doing Cocodona and then a few weeks later doing Cape Wrath. I'm sorry, Jen. I don't want to give you a heart attack.
Well, I was just waiting for you to realize that time.
I'm doing Cape Wrath. Tahoe is a backup plan. For some reason, if something happens, now I got myself in a little hole here because all three of those races are within 2 months of each other. So, it's good to have a backup plan, Jen. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't look any more into it. Don't go. Okay, that's all you need to know. But yeah, Cape Wrath, and then I'd love to do them all, and I hope they do make a 300 miler. Unless there is one we just don't know about it. But yeah,
I think Candace is already working on that.
Oh shoot!
She's
John,
working on a
Kat,
Sedona race. Is that the one?
It's
You think it'll be a 300?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be long, right? Yeah.
She's supposed to announce something big, and when someone asked if it was another 200 miler, she said no. But I think that could have been a trick. It could be more. It's like, ooh, you're gonna add something to the Triple Crown, make it. She's like, no. So I think she's being a little, cutie or cute with it. She's not a little cutie. I mean, she's being a little cute with it. I mean, but yeah. Anyway,
we better shut you down here before you get yourself into trouble.
Call Candace Bird a little cutie. Sorry.
Appreciate you guys coming on. I know Kathy's already ready to knock out. She's, I think, deliriously sleepy. But yeah, congratulations.
I still got to drive an hour and a half home. So
why don't you just sleep in Waco? Yeah. Does you have friends there? Hey, Tommy's just down the road. Stop in Hillsboro.
Oh, I'm gonna get some kolaches on the. Oh, they're probably. Well, yeah. Anyways, I need to make it back home, so I'm gonna.
So again, thanks everyone for coming on. I really appreciate it, and congratulations.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah,
appreciate the time.
Have a good night.
This was so fun. Thank you.
We'll keep. And I'm sure we can answer those listener questions on the comments. So.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll get
them our way.
I'll get to that. But
all right. Anything. Yep. See you guys.
Yeah.
Are we done yet? Can we stop pretending